following slides and case study that has been prepared by Graham Garner. Graham Garner, together with Richard Bradhurst, that is here, are the fathers of the Australian animal disease spread model, and also of the adaptation of the model to Europe. First of all, we are going to introduce the EuFMDiS model project. We will look at how models can be used to assist disease planning, focusing on the use of vaccination. And then we will present a case study where an outbreak is affecting several countries in Europe. And we will summarize the results to see the implications for vaccine supply. EuFMDiS project is a EuFMD-funded project to develop a robust and flexible tool that allows us to simulate FMD outbreaks within countries and between countries in Europe in order to support FMD planning, training, and response by European countries. At the moment, these are the countries involved in the project: Italy, Austria, Croatia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and Slovenia. And participants in the project have defined a common herd classification with 9 herd types. Also, different livestock production regions, 25 in total in the part of Central Europe that is part of the project. And these areas represent different livestock production characteristics and disease risk. Also, the different countries have defined country-level disease spread and control parameter values. So you can see here the different regions by country. EuFMDiS is based on the Australian animal disease spread model, and some modifications have been done, and also European data have been incorporated on the European farm population and other data to parameterize FMD transmission and control. EuFMDiS and EuFMDiS is a model with a hybrid structure. So equation-based modeling is used to simulate within herd spread, and agent-based modeling is used to simulate between herd spread. Also, animal movement networks have been used, and in this case, we have used the data obtained from traces, the European Trade Control and Expert System. So this is how EuFMDiS looks like. And I invite you during the coffee break, if you're interested to know how the model works, to go to our EuFMDiS desk, and we can show you the model running. So the study I'm presenting on behalf of Graham Garner aims at demonstrating how EuFMDiS can assist planning and disease preparedness. We are going to compare response strategies involving the use of vaccination, and we are going to assess potential vaccine requirements in a plausible multi-country FMD outbreak in Central Europe. I would like to call your attention to the fact that these findings are all indicative, because for some of the countries, the parameter values have not been finalized. So in our outbreak scenario, we are in Slovenia. So FMD starts on a small pig farm with 332 pigs in the eastern region of the country. You can see here. And 21 days have elapsed since the disease is introduced in the country until it is confirmed by the authorities. The key assumptions for our study are that the resources for control are based on what each of the countries have estimated. Vaccination starts on day 7 into the control program, and we are going to apply vaccine prospectively, meaning that we are going to vaccinate all the newly infected holdings from the date we start vaccination, plus we are going to vaccinate any infected holdings detected in the previous 3 days. We are going to consider both suppressive and protective vaccination strategies, and we are going to vaccinate these areas from outside in. We have also established in the model a priority for vaccination, first cattle, then pigs, and then small ruminants. And we have a potential access to 1 million doses in the EU vaccine bank. The number of doses have been set very high in the model because we didn't want that this is a limiting factor in our study, as we want to see how many doses we need with the different strategies. So these are the vaccination strategies that we are considering. First of all, no vaccination, only stamping out. Then suppressive ring vaccination. For all the species, we are going to vaccinate all susceptible species around infected holdings with a 3 kilometers radius. The next strategy would be the same, suppressive ring vaccination with 3 kilometers radius, but vaccinating cattle only. Then we will consider protective ring vaccination around the infected holdings, but in this case we are not vaccinated into the 3 kilometers area, but we are vaccinated in a donut shape, let's say, with an inner radius of 3 kilometers and an external radius of 8 kilometers. And we are going to vaccinate all the species. And then the last strategy would be the same as the fourth strategy, but only vaccinating cattle. So we are going to compare the effectiveness of these strategies, and 100 simulations are going to be done for each strategy. So on day 1 of the control program, when the authorities are aware of the first case of FMD, we have already 35 infected farms in 3 countries, Slovenia, Austria, and Italy. So this is the starting situation for comparing the 5 strategies, and this scenario has been chosen running the model 100 times in the silent phase of the disease, and choosing a scenario that was not too big or not too small. So from this starting point, each strategy, as I mentioned before, will be run 100 times. So if we want to compare strategies, we need to measure success, and it is very important to be clear on how we are going to measure success. This will depend mainly on how important exports are for the economy of a country. And in our case, in the case of our study, we are going to consider the outbreak size, the duration, and also the control program costs. So here we have the results. Regarding the outbreak size, well, we have the 5 strategies. We can see that suppressive vaccination strategies, vaccinating all the animals or vaccinating all the cattle, are going to reduce the size of the outbreak, so there will be less infected holdings and also less animals culled. But we see that the protection vaccination strategies in this particular setting are not reducing the number of infected holdings or total animals culled. If we have a look at the duration of the outbreak, we can see that again, the 2 suppressive vaccination strategies are going to reduce the length of the outbreak. And if we have a look at the control program duration, if we apply protective vaccination, the control program will last longer because of due to the large number of holdings that we will have to vaccinate. If we go now to see the control program costs, we can see that once again, using suppressive vaccination strategies are going to reduce the control program cost if we compare it to stamping out only. But we need to have in mind in this case that for the purpose of the study, the cost of managing the vaccinated animals have not been included. It can be done in the model, but it has not been included for this particular study. And finally, if we have a look at the size of the vaccination operations, well, we can see that predictably we need more vaccines, more doses. If we use protective vaccination, we need to vaccinate more holdings and more animals. So if we compare suppressive vaccination, vaccinating all the animals, with protective vaccination, vaccinating all the animals. In this first case, on average, around 1,400 holdings need to be vaccinated. And instead, if we use protective vaccination, we will have to vaccinate 5,700 on average. And if we have a look at the total animals vaccinated, again, with suppressive vaccination, we will vaccinate 65,000 animals, and with protective vaccination, 232,000 animals on average. To summarize the results of our study, we have considered a moderate outbreak scenario involving infection in 3 countries in Central Europe. Most of the time, based on the estimations of the resources for control that the countries have done and the expected effectiveness of the measures, the outbreak is able to be controlled quite quickly. So using just stamping out, on average, the outbreak would last just over 3 months, with around 90 to 100 infected holdings. And under the worst case scenario, we would have more than 400 infected holdings and would last more than 1 year. Suppressive ring vaccination was effective in reducing the size, the duration, and the control program costs of the outbreak in this particular setting. And protective vaccination was less effective and can prolong the duration of the control program due to the number of animals that need to be vaccinated. And regarding the implications these have for vaccine supplies, under suppressive ring vaccination strategy, as we saw, on average around 65,000 animals would be vaccinated, and in the worst case, around 110,000 animals. Protective ring vaccination strategies would require more vaccine. On average, around 232,000 animals would be vaccinated, and in the worst case, 330,000 animals. And in this study for this particular region, suppressive ring vaccination of cattle only was very effective. So it was almost as effective as using suppressive vaccination for all the species in reducing the size and the duration of the outbreak, and also significantly reduced the number of animals that have to be vaccinated. So in conclusion, EuFMDiS is a model is a sophisticated, powerful tool that can be used to study multi-country outbreak scenarios in Europe and assess implications of various approaches to control, including resource management and vaccine supply issues. In this study, we have looked at a single outbreak. Sorry. No problem. So in this case, we have looked at a single outbreak in Slovenia, starting in Slovenia and affecting 3 countries. Okay, perfect. Okay, but if we wanted to understand better the different vaccine requirements, we would need to run more scenarios and to compare more strategies. In this case, in this situation, suppressive ring vaccination was shown to be effective in reducing size, duration, and program costs compared with the strategy of not using vaccination, only stamping out. And the purpose of this study is not to provide definitive answers to what is the best approach to FMD control. It's rather to show how new generations tools can be used to explore different outbreak scenarios and to test different approaches to control. So considering that emergency vaccination is more frequently seen like an option to control an outbreak in 3 countries, if there is an incursion, we need to better understand the doses required for every scenario, for different scenarios, for different vaccine strategies. And tools such as EuFMDiS can help us to estimate the scale of the demand. Thank you very much.